Hello. Hello, hello. Today, I want to talk about something I've just been kind of listening to and hearing things about, and that is, are you considering quitting? Because you're not alone. You're really not alone. 60% of employees, 64% of managers, and 75% of C-suite executives are actually seriously considering quitting for a job that would better support their well being. Why is that? Most solutions that are being offered are missing the mark. They are so in the past, what it's been like is, really working and cranking and trying to relax at some point over the weekend, likely working still into the weekend, working evenings, taking a spa day, collapsing in front of the TV after work with a glass of wine, grinding until your next vacation. That just doesn't cut it anymore. It just doesn't cut it. What is needed is a more personalized, a more internal transformation. Because I was just on a podcast this morning and we talked about self-leadership. Quitting and going to another company, while the expectations might be different, we're not seeing everyone I talked to on the podcast. There were four of us, two people who were running the podcast, and then another guest and I. And we're not seeing a shift in companies to actually change the expectations. What one of the panelists with me said was that she worked for one of the big four, what used to be the big six accounting firms. And the expectations are that they would take everything you had. They are going to work you until you die. If you'll give it all to them, they will take it until you die. And that's happening in more organizations than not, which is why we're seeing people thinking they need to quit in order to have a better work experience. It starts here. It starts here. We have to have the self-leadership capacity in order to change the dynamic. And it can have a ripple effect. I'll share that in a moment. But when you are starting to have, so well-being isn't going to change until you change your habits toward work and towards life. Because it's your habits, whether it's a habit of not communicating what you need, not communicating what you want, whether it's a habit of people pleasing, whether it is a habit of needing to belong. And so getting involved in everything at work, needing approval, needing to prove your worthiness. There's all of these habits that aren't your fault. You learned them as a child in order to get your needs met and to not be severed from the attachment to the people who took care of you. That's a whole nother story. But it's not your fault. And you're an adult. It is your responsibility to do something about it. And so there's more and more people with skin issues, digestive issues, diabetes, heart issues, brain fog, attention challenges. A woman on the panel today said that young leaders are taking Adderall in order to keep their focused attention, to be able to compete at work. It just doesn't have to be that way. If you pull back and kind of look at your life as a whole, your past, your present, your future, the first step to changing those habits is first realizing what you want. There's two pieces: realizing who you are, who you want to be, who you are and who you want to be. And not just who you are to change into who you want to be, but who you are at your core. We have a core self. If you think of 3 concentric circles, I've mentioned this before. We have our core self, our developed self, and our contextual self. Our core self is our needs, our core needs, which we have many, some of them being just plain survival needs, and others are just core needs of belonging and achievement and worthiness, which, we're born with worthiness. And then there's also our gifts, our talents, our preferences, which are inborn. Our developed self are those habits that we learned in childhood to adapt, to perform, to get along in order to keep the love and keep the approval and attention of the people who took care of us and who loved us. And I just realized I was covering up my microphone. So if you can pull back and start to look at who you are at your core and start to observe what those patterns are, that self-awareness of, what did Dr. Gabor Mate call it? Oh, I want to see if I can find my note on it, because it is, getting into relationship with the voice in your head, because the voice in your head was developed as a child, and that voice in your head may be saying, and you may not even recognize that it's speaking to you, but it might be saying that you have to do this because blah, 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 because you're not going to get the promotion otherwise. You have to do ABC because everyone else is. These are not always the case. This is not always the case. So these developed habits are things that are no longer serving you. While they are adaptations and patterns that you learned in childhood, they're not your fault. It's now your responsibility to become aware of them and then learn how to shift them. That's part of what I do in my coaching with my clients, is we begin that habit, we begin that pattern of, or the process of really retuning in to who that core of us is, looking at those habits and patterns of our developed self, looking at our contextual self, our roles and who we need to be in different situations, whether that's as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter, as a manager, as a leader, as a CEO, maybe owning your own company, all these different roles. Maybe it's even roles within your role, that sometimes you're a facilitator, sometimes you're a coach as a leader in your organization. All those different roles, some might require you to be out of alignment with your core self. When that happens, you have to be in complete awareness of that, so that you can energize yourself before you do those roles, those tasks, and have time afterwards to re-energize yourself. Because oftentimes that misalignment can be a key part of what is causing your exhaustion and all of the stress. The stress of those developed patterns is what is causing our physical issues, the skin issues, the digestive issues, the diabetes, all of this. It is long-term stress that is wearing down our immune system that is causing all these issues. So what I do with my clients is I work with them to reduce or eliminate these chronic illnesses, chronic pain, and really live with a quality of life that is unprecedented. To live the life that you really want to live with the energy, not the sleep issues that you're having, not the health issues you're having, being able to shift those because you're able to downregulate the stress. You're able to calm that stress and shift your reaction to the stressors. The stressors aren't going to go away. So instead of considering quitting, DM me and let's get on a call. Let me provide you with a couple of more ideas of how you can start to shift into that core self and shift out of that developed self pattern. This is a process I call the energetic blueprint. It is a unique process that I take my clients through, and it is something that really helps you come back into yourself. And it can start to eliminate, and in some cases I've seen and heard, and I forget the author's name of the book, Cured, talks about how people go into spontaneous and complete remission of cancerous and other sorts of issues because of how they've shifted their thinking and their feeling. We'll get into more of that, of some of those connections of our thinking and feeling into that, but that is what is creating the stress. It isn't the stressor, it's how we're thinking about it, it's how we're feeling about it. So instead of quitting, there are several strategies you can use. That first one is to really get in tune with, and a lot of times it takes some outside perspective to help you see both who you are at your core as well as those developed patterns. Those developed patterns tend to be like water to a fish. So DM me, let's find a time to chat. I'll put a link in the comments as well from this video. And I will, so if you want to book a call right away, we can hop on a call and just chat about how coaching might be able to help you shift and either significantly reduce or eliminate a lot of those skin, digestive issues, diabetes, heart issues, brain fog, attention challenges. Looking forward to working with you. Have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week.